The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the driveway. I could feel the warmth of the day still clinging to the air, the soft hum of summer in the background. I stood there staring at the car I had worked so hard for, my fingers curling around the handle of the door. It was mine. Or at least I thought it was. Have you ever felt betrayed by the people you trusted most? Don't miss this heart-wrenching journey of a woman left stranded in the desert, as she uncovers shocking truths about her family and takes back control. Keep watching to find out how far she'll go for revenge. You know, my mother said from behind me, her voice smooth as always, the car's always been a family car. It's not really yours, you know. You should have asked. I blinked, the words hitting me like a slap. My heart skipped a beat and I turned slowly, fighting the tightening in my chest. What are you talking about? She was standing at the front door of the house, her arms folded across her chest, a calm smile on her face that only made the sting worse. It's not like we've ever kept things from you. But you've got to understand, this car was supposed to be for everyone. For everyone. The anger rose in me like a tidal wave, but I held it in, every muscle in my body tight with disbelief. How could she say that? How could she pretend, after all the years I'd spent working 2 jobs, waiting tables just to save up for this car, that it was never really mine? I had scrimped, saved, given up vacations and nights out with friends. I had worked myself into exhaustion for this. And now my mother, the woman who had told me from the beginning how proud she was of what I'd achieved, was standing there like I had somehow stolen it. I had earned every penny that went into it. But I didn't say anything. Not yet. I just looked at her, trying to swallow the bitter taste in my mouth. The air felt thick with something I couldn't quite name, a tension that crackled between us, leaving the space around me feeling smaller and smaller. It wasn't until my sister Lisa walked up behind me, her usual sweet smile on her face, that the real sting hit. She didn't even look surprised, as if she already knew what was coming. "She's right, you know," Lisa said, her tone so nonchalant it felt like she was talking about the weather. "We've all used it from time to time. You can't be selfish with things like this." Selfish? I wasn't selfish for wanting something I had worked so damn hard for. But I didn't argue. I couldn't. Not right then. Because something in their eyes, something cold and calculating, told me this wasn't about the car at all. This was about something deeper. Something I wasn't yet ready to fully understand. I turned away, walking back toward the car. I didn't care what they thought anymore. But as I reached the door, something inside me snapped. "Do you think I don't know what this is?" I said, my voice low but sharp. They both froze, exchanging a glance I didn't miss. There was something in it, a shared look of guilt? Maybe. Or maybe something else. "What are you talking about?" my mother asked, her voice steady but with the faintest tremor in it. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I yanked the door open, the metallic clang ringing in the air as I slid into the driver's seat. I could feel their eyes on me as I started the engine, the rumble of the car beneath me making my pulse quicken. I wasn't going to let them win. Not this time. As I pulled out of the driveway, I couldn't help but glance in the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of my mother and sister standing there watching me leave. Their faces, masked with disappointment or something worse, lingered in my mind. I should have felt angry, but instead I just felt empty. It wasn't until much later, when I was alone in my room, sitting on the edge of the bed, that I finally let myself feel the full weight of it. The betrayal. The realization that they had used me, manipulated me, and taken something that wasn't theirs to take. I ran my hands through my hair, trying to push the thoughts away, but they kept creeping back in. Why hadn't I seen it sooner? The little signs. The casual comments. The way my sister always seemed to be a little too comfortable around the car, as though she had an unspoken claim to it. And then, my mind went back to the day I bought it, the day I signed the papers with shaking hands, the excitement that had rushed through me. It had been a symbol of everything I had worked for. A reward. A victory. But now it felt like nothing more than a lie. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The car wasn't just about the money. It was about everything they had taken from me. My independence. My trust. My belief in the family I had always tried to hold together. And now it wasn't just about the car. I had a plan. I couldn't let them get away with it. Not after everything they had put me through. They had underestimated me. And I was going to make sure they realized just how much I had learned. I'd spent years watching, listening, absorbing every little detail. Every slip-up. Every lie. I wasn't just going to take back what was mine. I was going to make sure they never forgot who I was and what they had done to me. The next morning I woke up earlier than usual. I didn't bother with breakfast or with the usual routine. I went straight for the phone, scrolling through messages, ignoring the ache in my chest that had started to settle in. It was time. I needed leverage. I needed something to hit them with. The car, my mother's dismissal of it, that was just the beginning. There was more. Much more. I pulled out the old photos on my phone, the ones I hadn't looked at in years. The ones from when my sister and I were younger, when things had seemed simpler, happier. I focused on one picture in particular. The one of us on that family trip, the one where my mother had made us pose, smiling like everything was perfect. But behind that smile I saw it. The small detail that hadn't caught my eye before. A message on my mother's phone, visible in the corner of the shot. It was just a brief moment, but it was enough. Enough to make me realize what was really going on. They had planned this. The car wasn't just a gift. It was a token of control. A way to keep me in my place. And I would make them pay for it. I didn't show up for dinner that night. I didn't respond to my sister's messages. I couldn't. Not when I knew what they had been hiding from me all this time. The car wasn't mine. But they had no idea what I was about to do. The engine hummed steadily beneath me as I drove down the winding road, the late afternoon sun painting the horizon with a tinge of orange. The silence between me and Lisa felt suffocating, but I didn't mind. I didn't feel like talking anymore. Not after what had happened at the house. The betrayal stung, yes, but there was a strange sense of calm in knowing that I had control over my next move. I had decided to take a drive, clear my head, and let the tension unravel slowly. But I should have known better. I could feel Lisa's eyes on me from the passenger seat, but I kept my gaze straight ahead, trying to focus on the road. The car felt smaller now, confined, almost as if it was closing in around me, each mile only adding to the weight in my chest. "Mom's just trying to look out for everyone," Lisa said after a long stretch of silence, her voice softer than usual. She always had this way of trying to play the peacekeeper, smoothing over whatever rough edges she saw. But her words didn't ease me. Not this time. I could feel the irritation rise in me again. Look out for everyone? Is that what you call it? Stealing what's mine? My voice was colder than I intended, but I couldn't stop it. Lisa didn't answer immediately, her hands fiddling with the edge of her bag, the sound of the leather squeaking in the quiet car. "I didn't mean for things to get so out of hand," she said finally, looking out of the window as if she was searching for something. Her gaze lingered on the barren landscape outside, her expression unreadable. "It's just, I don't want things to be difficult between us." "Difficult?" I snapped, my grip tightening on the wheel. "You didn't want things to be difficult? How do you think I feel right now?" But she didn't respond. She never did when it came to matters like this. I knew my sister too well to think she'd ever truly understand. She was the type who always took the easy way out, and it was always at someone else's expense. We drove for what felt like hours, the heat of the day slowly fading as the sun dipped lower. The quiet was suffocating, broken only by the hum of the tires on the road. I didn't care where we were going anymore. I just needed to get away from everything. I needed to think, to plan. The wind outside the car whistled faintly as the desert stretched on, endless and flat. The landscape was harsh, unforgiving, but oddly beautiful in its starkness. It was the perfect backdrop for what was about to unfold. I was beginning to feel a strange sense of unease creeping up my spine, a gnawing feeling that something wasn't right. The way Lisa had been acting all day, the way she kept glancing at me with that odd, almost guilty look on her face. It was as though she knew something I didn't. Something was off, and I was starting to feel it deep in my bones. It wasn't until we hit a stretch of road with no signs of life for miles that it became clear. "Stop the car," I said suddenly, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. Lisa turned to look at me, confused. "What?" I said, "Stop the car." My heart was starting to race. She hesitated, her hands gripping the seatbelt, her eyes flickering between me and the empty road ahead. "What's going on?" "I'm not stupid, Lisa," I said, my voice tight with suspicion. "What are you doing?" Before she could respond, I slammed my foot on the brake. The car screeched to a halt, throwing us both forward as the tires dug into the gravel, sending up a cloud of dust in the fading light. The desert stretched out before us, empty and silent. But I wasn't fooled. I could feel it now, the tension in the air, the weight of something looming just beneath the surface. Get out, I said, my voice steady now but the anger simmering just below. Get out of the car, Lisa. She blinked at me, her lips parted in surprise. What are you? Just get out, I interrupted, my voice rising now. My patience was gone. Get out of the damn car. Lisa slowly unbuckled her seatbelt and stepped out, her movements slow as if she were processing the situation. I watched her, every muscle in my body tense as I waited for her to make the first move. The sun had nearly set by now, and the sky was painted with shades of purple and pink, the light dimming quickly. The air was cooler but still heavy with the lingering heat of the day. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but it wasn't the look of calm resignation that crossed Lisa's face as she stood there, staring at me. Why did you stop the car, Sarah? She asked, her voice soft but with an edge of something I couldn't quite place. It wasn't fear but something else. I don't trust you, I said simply. I didn't trust her, not anymore. Not after what had happened. Not after the way she and Mom had treated me. But there was more. There was something else here, something I still couldn't put my finger on. The wind blew harder, rustling the dry desert grass, and I could hear the faint sound of something shifting in the distance. But it wasn't the wind. It was the faint sound of a car. Another car. My pulse quickened. Lisa, what's going on? I demanded, but she didn't answer. Instead, she turned her head, her gaze flickering toward the horizon. And that's when I saw it, headlights. 2 sets of them coming closer. Fast. I didn't need to see more. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a drive, was it? I said, my voice a whisper now, the realization hitting me like a ton of bricks. Lisa remained silent, her eyes on the approaching vehicles, her face expressionless. The truth hit me then. This wasn't a simple drive. This was a setup. I didn't know if Lisa was in on it completely, but I could see it now. The way she had been so calm, so distant all day. The way she had acted like nothing was wrong when everything in me screamed that something was. The headlights grew larger as the car sped toward us, and I could hear the distinct roar of an engine. I felt a chill run through me as the realization settled in. They had planned this. All of it. A knot tightened in my throat. The car stopped in front of us, kicking up dust as it skidded to a halt. 2 men stepped out, their faces shadowed in the low light, but I didn't need to see them clearly to know what was happening. I didn't need to know their names to understand that I had just walked straight into a trap. Lisa stepped back, her hands shaking slightly, but she didn't say a word. He just stood there watching. The men didn't move at first, as if waiting for something. Waiting for me to make the first move. But I wasn't going to give them that satisfaction. What the hell is this, Lisa? I asked, my voice low but steady, the anger and fear mixing into something I couldn't control. She didn't answer. And that was when I realized. I was completely alone. The men took a step forward and I braced myself, knowing what was coming but not ready for it. Not ready to face the consequences of trusting the wrong people. Get in the car, Sarah, one of the men said, his voice gruff and unfamiliar. I stood my ground, but my heart raced as I searched for any possible way out. There had to be one. There always was. But as the men closed in, the desert around me felt like it was swallowing me whole. The men had left. The engine of their car roared off into the distance, leaving only the smell of burnt rubber in the air. I stood there, frozen, watching the dust settle, a tight knot of fear and anger in my chest. Lisa had already gone inside, slipping away like she always did when things got messy. I couldn't move, couldn't process everything that had just happened. But the feeling that I was being watched, that I had somehow missed something, lingered in the air. I finally stepped forward, my legs shaky, and made my way to the front door of the house. It was quiet now. Too quiet. I had no idea what had just transpired, but something inside me knew. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. As I opened the door, the scent of stale air greeted me. The house was empty except for the low hum of the refrigerator. My mother was nowhere to be found, and the usual clutter of daily life was conspicuously absent. I glanced toward the kitchen, but the unease in my stomach only grew stronger. I needed to figure out what had happened. I needed to know what Lisa had gotten herself tangled up in, and how deep it went. The first thing I did was make my way to the living room where I had seen my mother earlier. There it was, sitting innocently on the coffee table, her phone. The one she always kept close like it was her lifeline. It had always been an extension of her, a constant companion that she never let out of her sight. I had seen it there before, but today it felt different. Suspicious. I walked over slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. I hesitated, looking around the room. The walls felt too close, the air too thick. But I couldn't ignore the pull, the need to understand what had been going on behind my back. This was the one thing I could do to make sense of everything. My fingers brushed against the cold glass surface of the phone and I picked it up. My mother's password was a simple one. A habit she had never bothered changing, even when Lisa and I had told her a dozen times that it wasn't secure. I typed in the familiar digits without thinking and the screen lit up. The first thing I noticed was the stack of messages. They were all from Lisa. Her name was plastered across the screen over and over again. My heart skipped. I had expected to see something, maybe some harmless check-ins or updates about the family, but what I found was far from it. The first message I opened was dated just 2 days ago. It was short, but the words hit me like a punch to the gut. "Is it done?" the message read. There was no greeting, no usual pleasantries. Just a simple, cold question. I felt my stomach churn as I scrolled down, my hands trembling slightly. Another message, only a few hours later, read, "You've got to keep her in the dark for a little longer. The car will work. She won't suspect anything." I froze. Her. They had talked about the car again, the one I had worked so hard for. And they had planned something. Something I hadn't been told about. My heart raced as I skimmed through the rest of the conversation, each message more unsettling than the last. My mother had always been good at pretending everything was fine. She had always been the calm one, the one who played the role of the perfect mother. But this was different. I had never seen this side of her. The woman who always told me that family was everything, that blood was thicker than water, had been lying to me all along. I scrolled through more messages, my pulse quickening. Each message revealed more of the twisted web they had woven. They had been planning something bigger than I could have imagined. They had been working together, manipulating me, using me as a pawn. I couldn't breathe. The realization settled over me like a heavy weight, making my chest tighten. I had trusted them. I had trusted my own family, only to find out that they had been plotting behind my back. It wasn't just about the car. No, it was about control. About keeping me in the dark, about making sure I stayed in line while they lived their lives without any interference from me. But as I read through the final messages, something shifted inside me. I felt the rage building, the hurt turning into something else. A fire, hot and sharp, began to burn in my chest. I wasn't going to be their fool anymore. I wasn't going to sit back and let them continue manipulating me. The last message I found was the most chilling of all. "Don't worry," my mother had written. "I've made sure she won't figure out what we've done. You know what to do next." The message sent a chill down my spine. I didn't know what they had done, but I knew one thing for sure. They weren't just after the car. They were after everything I had worked for, everything I had built for myself. I closed the phone, my hands still shaking as I set it back down on the coffee table. The anger that had been simmering inside me was no longer something I could ignore. It had been building piece by piece with each new revelation. I was done being the victim. I was done being the one who always got left behind. I stood there for a long moment, letting the weight of what I had learned sink in. I could hear the faint sound of my heart thudding in my chest, the beat growing louder as my thoughts raced. They thought they had won. They thought they could control me, keep me in the dark. But they were wrong. I had the information now. I had the proof. And I was going to use it. But just as I was about to make a move, I heard the sound of footsteps approaching. My breath caught in my throat as I turned toward the hallway. Lisa appeared at the doorway, her face carefully neutral, but her eyes betraying the tension beneath. "You shouldn't have seen that," she said, her voice soft but filled with an underlying threat. I stood taller, steadying myself. "No, Lisa. You shouldn't have done any of this. You and Mom have been playing me for fools and I'm not going to stand for it." Lisa's gaze flickered down to the phone on the table, then back to me. She said nothing, her eyes cold, unreadable. I didn't wait for her response. I was done. The truth was out now and I was going to make sure they faced the consequences of their actions. There was no turning back now. Not for me and not for them. Lisa didn't move, didn't blink. She stood there in the doorway, her eyes locked on me as if daring me to make the next move. I could feel my pulse racing, the blood in my ears thudding louder with every passing second. The betrayal I just uncovered felt fresh, like a wound that refused to heal. But now it was time to act. It was time to turn everything they'd done to me against them. "Don't pretend," I said, my voice low but steady. "I know everything. Her face flickered just for a split second, before she masked it again with that cool, almost bored expression she always wore when things got uncomfortable. But I saw it. I saw the cracks in her composure. "You don't know anything," she said softly, her voice betraying the lie. Her lips were tight, the usual warmth in her tone gone. "You've got no idea what you're talking about." I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. "No, Lisa. You're wrong. I know exactly what you and Mom have been doing behind my back. I've seen the messages." The room felt like it was closing in on me, the weight of her silence suffocating. She didn't respond, and that only made my anger burn hotter. How dare they? How dare they keep me in the dark like this? I turned my back to her, walking over to the table where my mother's phone lay. Picking it up, I held it out in front of me, knowing exactly what it meant to her. Her lifeline. The one thing she had always kept so close. "You thought you could hide behind this, didn't you?" I muttered. "You thought I wouldn't find out." Lisa's eyes flickered toward the phone, but she didn't make a move. The silence between us stretched out, thick and heavy. I could feel the tension building. This wasn't just about a car anymore or the lies. This was bigger. This was about trust and how they had violated it at every turn. "You're going to regret this," she said finally, her voice colder now, tinged with something darker. "You don't know what you're messing with." I didn't look at her. I couldn't. The thoughts racing through my mind were too urgent, too consuming. I knew what I had to do now. I wasn't going to let this go. Not this time. I opened the phone again, my hands shaking, but I wasn't afraid. I was done being afraid. My fingers moved quickly, scrolling through the messages. I had a plan, and it had to start here with the truth. I was going to expose them, every lie, every dirty little secret. They wouldn't get away with it. Not now. Not ever. I started small. A quick text to one of our distant relatives, someone who would spread the word like wildfire. "You're not going to believe what I just found out," I typed. "Lisa and Mom have been planning behind my back, and I have proof." I didn't send it immediately. I let my thumb hover over the send button. The air in the room felt thick with anticipation, the heaviness pressing down on me. But I wasn't backing down now. I let my finger slide over the screen, pressing it. The message was sent. I didn't wait to see if it was read. I knew it would be. It had to be. Next came the social media. The carefully curated accounts my mother had spent years building. Her pristine image of a loving, devoted mother, always there for her family. It was all a lie. I had proof, and I was going to make sure everyone knew. The posts came fast, one after another, each one more damning than the last. The pictures, the messages, the evidence of manipulation. I couldn't stop now. Not when I knew what was at stake. They'd taken so much from me already. I was taking it back piece by piece. My heart raced as I typed, my hands trembling with each word. "I trusted you both. I gave everything, and this is what you did. Behind my back. For what? For control? For power? You'll regret this." I hit post. The words burned through me, a raw confession, a cry for justice. I couldn't stop now. I set the phone down and stood back, letting the silence stretch around me. My thoughts were scattered, my emotions wild. But I wasn't going to be their pawn anymore. This was my time, my moment of reckoning. "Lisa," I said quietly, turning to face her. "Do you even realize what you've done? What you've put me through?" Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't respond. She didn't have to. The truth was out there now. It was in motion. I felt my breath catch in my throat. I had to keep going. I couldn't stop. Not now. Not when I was finally in control. I walked toward her, my steps slow but purposeful. "You've always thought you could get away with everything. That I'd just fall in line. But not anymore. This ends now." She stepped back, but I didn't let her. "No. You don't get to walk away from this. Not like you always do." Her eyes flickered with a hint of fear now, and I knew it was starting to sink in. She hadn't realized what I was capable of, what I could do with the truth in my hands. I wasn't just going to let her slide away, not without facing the consequences. He had to pay. They both did. But it wasn't just about her. It was about my mother too. I turned back to the phone, scrolling through the messages again. There was more. Always more. I hadn't even scratched the surface yet. I felt a sick satisfaction in knowing they'd never see this coming. My mother had always been the one to pull the strings, but I'd learned how to cut them. I'd learned how to make her feel the weight of her own lies. I opened the text thread from my mother again, this time scrolling further back. The patterns were clear now. The deceit. The manipulation. The way she had used me for years, never giving me a chance to stand on my own. I clicked the send button again. Another relative, this time one who had always sided with my mother. Another message. Another lie exposed. Felt good, but it didn't feel like enough. Not yet. The web was still there, still tangled between us. I needed more. I needed them to understand the pain they'd caused. To see how they had wrecked everything for their own selfish desires. Lisa, I said again, my voice lower this time. Do you even know what this is going to cost you? She swallowed hard but didn't answer. I saw the fear in her eyes now, a flicker of doubt. She had thought she could hide behind my mother, thought she could play the part of the sweet, innocent daughter who always got away with it. But she was wrong. I was done letting them control me. I was done being the person they could manipulate, the person who always picked up the pieces after they'd torn everything apart. Good luck fixing this, I said, my voice sharp as I turned to leave. But before I could step out of the room, I heard her whisper, just barely audible, "You won't win, Sarah. You'll regret this." I smiled to myself, the taste of victory bitter on my tongue. "We'll see about that," I said under my breath. And then I walked out, leaving the wreckage behind me. I heard Lisa's words still echoing in my ears, a faint whisper of defiance, but it didn't matter. Not anymore. I was walking away, and this time it wasn't out of fear or uncertainty. It was out of power, the power I had taken back piece by piece from them both. Every lie they had told, every betrayal they had plotted, it was all falling apart now. And I wasn't going to wait around to watch it burn. I had already done the damage. The truth was out. The world would know. I stepped outside, feeling the cool evening air rush past me, a stark contrast to the heat in my chest. My breath was slow, measured. I had done what I needed to do. The posts were live. The messages were sent. The truth was everywhere now, scattered across the digital world where they couldn't hide. I didn't care anymore about the quiet spaces they'd created for themselves, the lies they'd wrapped around their own lives. That was over. As I made my way down the porch steps, I could hear the faint buzz of my phone vibrating against the table inside, but I didn't check it. Not yet. Let them come to me. Let them beg for answers, for forgiveness. I was done being their pawn. My steps carried me farther from the house, and with each stride, the tension I had carried for so many years seemed to loosen just a little bit more. It was like shedding an old skin, one that had kept me trapped in a world where I was never seen, never heard. But now I was walking into the light. Into the future I had been denied. As I reached my car, I saw the familiar shape of the vehicle that had once been my symbol of independence. The car they had tried to claim as theirs. The one they'd tried to break me over. Still looked the same, parked right where I left it. But I could already feel the weight lifting. The car didn't mean what it used to. It wasn't the victory I had once thought it was. It was just a thing. An object. I had taken back my life, my voice, and that was worth far more than anything that could be bought or stolen. The phone buzzed again, but I ignored it. The messages would be there when I was ready. I knew exactly what they said. Apologies, please, maybe even threats. It didn't matter. They had lost. Everything they had built on lies and manipulation had crumbled. As I got into the car, I glanced back one last time at the house, at the life I had once tried to protect. For the briefest moment, I wondered what would happen next. Would my mother come crawling to me asking for forgiveness? Would Lisa try to manipulate me again, pretending it was all a misunderstanding? No. They had played that game for too long. They had gambled and lost. The road ahead was dark, but the headlights of my car cut through it, revealing everything in sharp, clear detail. I didn't need to look back. I was already moving forward. And for the first time I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. The anger, the hurt, the sense of being taken for granted. It all seemed distant now, like it belonged to someone else. I wasn't going to stop. I wasn't going to let them win, not when they had already lost everything. My mother's carefully curated image, built over decades of deception, was gone now. The fake smiles, the pretend love, the way she always acted like the perfect mother. It was all exposed for what it was. A house of cards ready to collapse. Lisa, too, had lost her role as the darling, the one who could do no wrong. She had chosen the wrong side, and now there would be no going back. The people who had once admired her for her charm would see her for what she truly was. A manipulator who had used family to get ahead. I pulled onto the highway, the sound of the engine humming beneath me, a steady rhythm that matched the peace I was starting to feel. The tension in my chest was melting away with each mile. I wasn't even sure where I was going, but that didn't matter. I was free. The next few days were a blur. The aftermath of everything I had set into motion hit like a tidal wave. I kept my phone close, watching the notifications pile up. Messages from family members, from people I hadn't spoken to in years, all reacting to what I had exposed. Some were supportive, others shocked, some even angry. But none of it mattered to me anymore. I had made my decision and there was no turning back. Lisa tried calling a few times, but I didn't pick up. I wasn't interested in hearing her excuses. She had made her choice and I had made mine. My mother too reached out. I could almost hear her trembling voice through the phone. I could almost picture her, sitting there in her carefully maintained home, her world falling apart around her. But I didn't care. She had taken enough from me. I had given her my trust, my loyalty, and in return she had taken everything I had worked for. I didn't need them anymore. And the truth was, I was stronger without them. The hardest part, surprisingly, wasn't dealing with the fallout. It wasn't even the betrayal itself. It was the silence that followed. The quiet realization that, in some way, I had lost the family I had tried so desperately to protect. The realization that I had done it to myself. I had given too much, trusted too easily, and for too long allowed them to take from me. But now I understood something crucial. I understood the strength in walking away. I understood that sometimes, the only way to truly heal is to let go of people, of expectations, of the past. I had learned that lesson the hard way, but it was a lesson that would stay with me for the rest of my life. As the days passed, I started to rebuild. Not in the way I had once imagined, with my family by my side with their approval, but in my own way. I began to focus on what mattered. On my own peace. My own happiness. I started to take care of myself in ways I had never done before, and I found joy in the small things. In the quiet moments. In the spaces where I no longer had to pretend. One afternoon I took a walk through the park, something I hadn't done in years. The air was crisp and the leaves rustled gently around me. I hadn't realized how much I'd missed moments like this. Moments of stillness, of being alone with my thoughts. The kind of moments that were mine and mine alone. It was in those moments that I realized something else. I hadn't lost everything. I had lost the illusions. I had lost the toxic ties, the expectations. But in doing so I had gained so much more. My independence. My voice. My truth. And that, I realized as I watched the sun sink beneath the horizon, was everything. I wasn't walking away from anything. I was walking toward something. A future that was entirely mine. And I was finally free. If you felt the raw emotions of this story, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more tales of betrayal, revenge, and personal transformation. Your support means everything. Join our community for more stories that speak to the heart.